Good morning. Alam ko medyo weird itong time na to kasi all over the place tayo dito sa series natin. Nag-umpisa tayo late afternoons and then late evening with Jason and then ngayon naman magla-lunch kay Sir Benj. Pero okay lang, yung mga hindi naman makaka-join ngayon, recorded naman tong videos natin. I-upload din natin at some point. I say some point kasi medyo busy pa kami ni Oli, hindi pa namin na-edit mula first episode, episode 4 na to. Bibigay namin isang bagsak parang Netflix. Anyway, ayun. Introduce ko lang sa inyo yung guest natin for today. Like super excited to have him dito sa quote-unquote show natin, if you can call it that. He really needs no introduction, pero para sa mga medyo bago sa SEO sa inyo, si Sir Benj has been with SEO org since mga 2004, tama ba estimate ko, sir?
Tama, 2004.
Mga SEO Philippines pa yata na forum at the time.
Yes.
Like I mean kaming dalawa ni Jason, who is also in this call and will participate sa Q&A. Kino-consider na namin tito yung sarili namin sa sa SEO org, pero this predates even that. Hindi ko sinasabing matandaan si sir, sinasabi ko lang na siya ang tunay na godfather ng SEO dito sa Pilipinas. Like I remember watching him for the first time ng 2010 and then hindi ko inakala kasi at the time super bago pa lang ako sa SEO. Kala ko hindi yata kaya ng utak ng Pilipino ang SEO, napakahirap pala nito. That's what I was telling myself. Tapos panood ko si Sir Benj sa SEMCON speaking, and then he was introduced as not only one of the best SEOs in the Philippines but also in the world kasi marami na siyang competitions na sinalihan, and some of them siya yung nag-champion, and that kind of paved the way, I guess. Kwento nyo na lang siguro, sir, to him being based in the US. Pero yeah, si Sir Benj like sa Q&A sa SEO org, super active, veteran na manager, VP, director sa SEO, not only sa Pilipinas but also in the US. If you don't know him, make it a point to be familiar with him. Kayo na yung magkwento ng rest. So I give you Mr. Benj Ariola.
Okay, sige. Basically, just as a brief introduction, how I got started, hindi naman ako SEO by profession, wala naman ganung nag-start ako as first job ko is a chemist. Trabaho ako sa chemist, working as a chemist, and then after that naisip kong magkaroon ng business, and that business went into computer sales, and from that computer sales ano na nangyari? Naghanap ako ng slide kaya ako nagpo-post hindi ito yung gusto ko from that computer sales naging web design and web development company kasi nag-fail yung computer sales ko kasi first business, and from that web design and web development company, ito na lang siguro isang magandang summary. Makikita mo, web design, web development company. So from that span of time, web designer, web developer ako up to 2006. Makikita nyo rin yung country ko saan ako base, predominantly in the Philippines during that period. 2005, lumipat ako ng US. Bakit ako lumipat? Taghirap Mahirap yung web design development, daing kalaban. But I started early. Makikita nyo, 1997, nagsimula na ako. Ang taas ng presyo ng mga website. Konti lang ang gumagawa. Pos madali lang gawin, pos ang taas ng presyo. Pos pababa yung presyo kasi dumadaming competition and then paiksi development time, pahaba yung puyatan. Eventually, sabi ko, give up ako. Punta ako ng US. Nung punta ako ng US, sabi ko, magde-design ng mga websites, magbebenta ako doon ng mga websites, design and development sa Philippines. But in the process, pag dumating ka sa US, wala kang trabaho, kailangan mong kumita para mabuhay. So I work for different digital marketing agencies, and in the process, natutunan ko ang SEO. And along that way, simula from that point, puro SEO na ginagawa ko. since this presentation was done in 2018, wala yung the last 2 years. So, yung last 2 years dito, parang napupunta na sa data science side, aside from SEO. But yun basically ang history ko. Spoken at 46 conferences, hindi ko alam kung updated ang slide na to, 4 different countries, 20 cities since 2007, won prizes in 7 international SEO competitions, halos lahat puro cash prizes. In this case, in the 2007, I won a brand new car. So, yun yung intro ko sa sarili ko para dyan sa yun. And then, we could go straight to this presentation. Boom. Okay. Dahil wala akong intro slide, pasok na dyan. So, ito yung ginawa kong agenda. Pinost ko pa nga sa Facebook. Ginagawa ko habang nasa CR yung outline. And then eventually, ito na ang nabuo. And from here, I just expanded on it in this presentation. And kulang sa mga notes, kulang sa mga visuals or whatever. But that's okay. Pag-uusapan na lang natin. So, Black Hat and algorithm relationships, algorithm update relationships. Why we have algorithm updates? Short kwento, itong mga icons na to, natutuwa ako sa PowerPoint. Automatic niyang pinasok pag namimili ka ng design ideas. And they look appropriate. Baka may AI na ginagamit. Anyway, why do we have algorithm updates? Isn't Google perfect already? So bakit siya nag-update? Kung tutuusin mo, if Google has the best search results, and ang objective naman ng Google is to serve the user well, to give kung ano yung result na hinahanap mo, edi dapat, and Google's one of the best in doing that already. Bakit continuously nilang ina-update? Kaya nila continuously ina-update because someone is gaming the system. As long as someone is gaming the system, trying to do something black hat, may kakaibang result na nalalabas. Na parang pag nakita ng mga tao, bakit ang taas ng ranking nito? This site doesn't deserve to be here kasi it's totally irrelevant or it's a spammer, it's low quality, it's whatever. And then, since ganun na nangyayari, pag napansin ng Google na yun na nangyayari, sasabihin nila, ay, mukhang nakalusot sila dito sa algo na ito dahil sa kung naman ginagawa nila. So, they're gonna devise a way na para gumawa ng algorithm update para ma-prevent yun. And pag na-prevent yun, edi bagong update na naman. Sino yung mga unang magre-reklamo? Lahat ng apektado. Now, yung mga apektado, some of them are aware of what they're doing. They're doing something black hat or whatnot. And then some of them, nadadamay na lang. Kasi minsan yung update nila, may mga websites na nadadamay na hindi naman aware yung gumagawa ng site or yung may-ari ng site or the SEO of the site na may black hat na ginagawa. Either they don't know what they're doing, na black hat pala yun, or they're the website owner, they don't know who did the SEO for them na bakit ganun nangyari, or medyo may characteristics lang sila na parang nagmumukhang may ginagawang black hat kahit hindi. So, and the ones that are aware that they're doing something black hat, hindi sila nagrereklamo masyado. Kasi aware sila sa ginawa nila Pas pag nahuli sila, di tayo silang bagong site. Yung mga hindi aware sa ginagawa nila, di sila yung mga unang nagrereklamo. Especially if the business, the majority of the revenue comes from organic search, sila yung yung nasasaktan dyan Kasi algo update happen, nasira ang ranking, nawala large part of their revenue, biglang, wala nang kita. Some businesses go bankrupt. And a lot of that happened in 2011 during the Panda and Penguin update. All these other updates, succeeding updates, medyo mas konti yung mga naapektuhan. Pero I think the ones where the most people close businesses was during the Panda and Penguin updates before. So, algorithm updates happen because lots of black hat stuff are happening. Okay, sometimes it's not necessarily black hat. Maybe it's just an overall improvement na gustong gawin ni Google. So can Google detect all black hat tactics? Kasi first is if there's new stuff na hindi pa alam ng Google, syempre hindi pa alam eh. So hindi pa na-detect. Now, what about the things that Google is already aware of? The things that they caution you to not do? Kaya ba niyang i-detect lahat? Some could be detected by the algorithm itself, kaya nga may mga update, but the ones that cannot be detected right away, so dun nag-i-exist yung that next bullet point, the Google Spam Report. And in the Google Spam Report, what is that? If you just Google Spam Report, i-type mo lang, lalabas yung URL, enter it, and you could see that anyone could submit a site that seems to be doing something bad to gain some ranking in Google in a not good way. So, in the Google Spam Report, what happens there? Pag marami ang nagre-report sa isang website, tapos napansin ng Google, oh, dahil nagre-report. So, they could look deeper into it. Now, if the amount of reports are very similar in how they are gaining ranking na ayaw ni Google, then that is something that they could review and come up with an algorithm update. Well, who are Google manual reviewers? If you're aware of that, basically, it could be anyone that applied as to be a Google manual reviewer. In fact, in the SEO PH group, there are some Google manual reviewers or former, hindi na yata sila manual reviewer ngayon, but there are some. And they said don't tell who they are, so I'm not telling who they are. And bawal din sa kontrata nila sa Google na sabihin na Google manual reviewer sila. Obviously, dahil alam ko, lumabag na sila sa rule na yun. Pero, syempre, bawal pa rin sabihin. But we ask, what is the process? What do they do? What does a Google manual reviewer do? Basically, they have like a ticket system, like a trouble ticket system. May marireceive silang task na website na i-review. And they score it from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10. Hindi ko maalala kung 1 to 5 o 1 to 10. It's a scale basically. And it's guided by questions. May hidden content ba to? Does it serve the user? Etc. etc. If you're interested on what they look at, there is a manual reviewer quality guideline. If you just Google manual reviewer quality guideline, you'll probably find that. And before, Google didn't make that public. It used to be only to the manual reviewers. Pero every year may nagli-leak. May nagli-leak somewhere in some forum. And then pag kumalat, kakalat na lahat. Syempre, i-disclaim na mga kahit sinong Google manual reviewer na sila ang kumalat, pero may nagli-leak. Since every year may nagli-leak ng latest copy, ginawa ng Google, let's just make it public. So the Google manual reviewer quality guidelines is actually public. If you Google that, you'll actually see it. Now, reconsideration requests. If ever something does bad happen to you because you did something wrong, where you were affected by an algorithm update, could you get back? Yes, you can. There is a reconsideration request. Basically, you have to fix whatever issue that you did, and from that issue, you contact Google. Often, how this happens in a process is you get a message within Google Search Console that something has happened. You are penalized for something, and basically you interact from there. Now, we talked about that, the relationship ng algo update and black hat. Basically, there's an algorithm update. Why does it happen? Often because there are black hats that are trying to game the system. So Google came up with an algo update so that doesn't happen anymore. Now, next question. Dito sa agenda, am I affected? So, dito sa am I affected? How do you know kung apektado ka ba? And I see that even in a common question sa group, sa SEO PH group. Sometimes when you makikita, may bagong algo update ba? Kasi bagsak lahat ng rankings ko or something like that. There would be random people asking, not only in the SEO page group, but in many other groups and also on online forums. And if more people kind of agree with the sentiments of the person na parang ako rin apektado, ano, so maybe there is an update, the more people that react to it. So how do you actually know if you are affected? I'm going to go down this list of different things to look at. So first thing is list of Google algorithm updates. So what is a good list of Google algorithm updates? Probably one of the most popular is the one by Moz. So maybe I could squeeze in a browser here. And then let's just do Moz algo update. And of course, I don't memorize any URLs, but Moz is one of the companies that compiles all algorithm updates. They are not the only one. Marami ang nagko-compile. Okay? Moz is the one that medyo pag malakas lang yung kwentuhan of a certain group na parang may algo update, they don't necessarily add it. Matagal ang review nila if the update really happened or not. So there's years, it's sorted by year. And for everyone, you know, there's the status of confirm and unconfirm. The only difference of confirm is Google actually said, yes, we have an update. Or minsan sila pa yung proactively na nagsasabi, an update is coming. While the unconfirmed one is mainly observation of multiple SEOs that agree and think that there is an algorithm update, pero walang sinasabi si Google. They are not confirming nor denying that the algorithm update happened. Okay, so may confirm and non-confirm. Now, once you see all of these updates, if ever your rankings disappeared or your organic search traffic greatly decrease during the dates na nakalist, then baka apektado ka. Baka tinamaan ka ng update kasi nagko-coincide sa date. And aside from that, in the past few years, Google has also been doing what they call a slow rollout, where when they roll out updates, not all sites see it right away. Not all sites are affected right away. Parang they trickle in the updates to every site. So sometimes the date may not coincide with your ranking changes or organic traffic decreases or increases during that date, but it could be a few days after. Kasi may slow rollout sila. So whenever there is an algorithm update, how do you know the details of each update? Sino ba ang apektado? Ano ba talaga ang nangyari? And the good thing is when you're looking at these lists, they link out, especially this Moz one, they link out to all individual blog posts of various sites. And from here, you could read the details. You could go into each one and read the details, ano yung mga observation. There would be small sites and big sites. Small sites or individual blogger sites of individual SEOs based on their observations. Sometimes they collect data from multiple sources to confirm what they're seeing, while bigger sites like Search Engine Land, Moz, Search Engine Journal, the tools, Search Metrics, SEO Clarity, SEM Rush, and all of that. Sometimes they compile the data they gather as well, and they tell the observations. And often in these observations, they would say, who are the winners, who are the losers? And dun mo rin makikita what is common among the winners, what is common among the losers. Ano bang klaseng website to? Ano bang klaseng industry? And then if you belong into one of these groups and you saw that you're affected, then malamang apektado ka nga. Okay? So going back here to the presentation, confirm versus unconfirm, I kind of mentioned that already. Now, what to look at when looking at reporting tools, GA, GSC, and rank tracking tools. In GA, sometimes people just look at overall traffic. Of course, mali gawin yan. Dapat organic traffic. So in GA, that would be under acquisition, channels, organic search. Now, under organic search, sabihin natin biglang bumagsak ang organic search or biglang hindi gumalaw or biglang tumaas. Since the update is only in Google and not in other search engines, another thing you should do in GA is actually you could add a filter or add a secondary dimension of source and make sure your source is Google so that you're only looking at Google. And then pag Google lang talagang tinitignan mo, and then the dip or the sudden rise or sudden dip happen on the days near one of the algorithm updates, then that's how you typically look at it. Very similar to Google Search Console. Since Google Search Console, the data is really only Google, then you're mainly looking at the date. Now, in rank tracking tools, same thing, you're basing it on the date. Maybe after all of this, pag may time, if you want to do some sort of demo or whatnot, just walking through how to do that in GA, walking through how to do it in GSC, then sige, gawin natin. But the main point there is narrow down what you're looking at to Google alone and organic search alone. So hindi kasama ang paid search and Google lang, and that is how to verify kung apektado ka nga ba ng Google. Now for rank tracking tools, baka iba-ibang gamit nyo. You know, there's many out there. Personal favorites of mine, Authority Labs, GetStat, AWR Cloud, then all the enterprise ones, SEO Clarity, Bright Edge, Search Metrics, Conductor, and so on. So all of these could track keywords. SEMrush pa pala, SEMrush could track keywords. Now, if ever you entered the keywords that you're tracking, and this goes back to keyword research, what is a good practice is you want a good balance. If ever your site has different categories or a large amount of pages, you want a good balance of these keywords across the different categories. Now, whenever you have multiple keywords that you're tracking, I suggest that you have some long tails and also some general head terms and a good balance of that as well. So some with lots of words, some with a few words. And the reason why I'm saying that is sometimes some of these algorithm updates may be affecting only the general head terms, or maybe they be affecting the long tail terms. So having a good balance within your keyword research that of the set of keywords that you track would give you better insights when you're looking at your rank tracking tools on the trend of your ranking. Bigla bang bumagsak, bigla bang tumaas during the date of the update, and anong klaseng keyword? Lahat or only the general head terms or only the long tails and whatnot? Okay. Is it just my SEO or every site is affected? So lahat ba ng site apektado o ako lang ba? Now I write their SERP volatility tools. Ano yung mga SERP volatility tools? There are a lot. Probably one of the more popular ones is Mozcast, and I believe Mozcast is just Mozcast. Now Algoru is also another one, which is owned by Dijan, ano bang pangalan niya? Petrovic. Okay, and basically, what do these tools do while we're waiting for them to load? All of these tools basically have a set of keywords that they're monitoring, that they're tracking the ranking. They claim that these keywords come from different industries. And from these different industries, they check the ranking kung marami ang tumalon ng ranking. Marami bang tumaas, marami ang bumaba. Okay, if there is a sudden jumble in ranking, there's tons of keywords na a large set of them went up or a large set went down, and so what? Yun yung mataas yung volatility. And pag mataas yung volatility, mataas yung score na lumalabas. So sometimes the algorithm, especially the unconfirmed ones, the ones that Google doesn't tell you about, just to see if a lot of sites are affected, it's nice to check the SERP volatility tools. If mataas yung score nung araw na yun, then marami ang apektado. Because it means lots of websites went down, lots of websites went up, and it could be an algorithm update. Kaya confirm or unconfirm. I mean, especially if it's unconfirmed. Kasi walang nagkwento eh. So you rely on these tools. So Moscas is one of them. Algoru is one of them. I think RankRanger has their own. SEMrush has their own. And let's just go to SERP Wallet. I think Searchmetrics has their own for members, and it depends if they write a blog post about it, and then it becomes public. But you could see, so there's SEMrush Sensor, there's a RankRanger Index, and so on. If you type search volatility tools, SERP volatility tools, a lot of tools will appear. And the common thing among these tools is they are tracking rankings for multiple industries. So, you know, madetect nila kung may nangyayari. And often, part of their service is a rank tracking tool. And since they're a rank tracking tool, they have the data. And since they have the data, they have the insights, which is normally, it would be difficult for you to do because any rank tracking tool, the price goes up based on the number of keywords. Okay. Is it an update or a search volume trend? Sabihin natin biglang bumaba yung organic search mo. Bakit itong month na to, March, biglang bumagsak? Ano bang update nangyari ng March? And one thing to even check is year-over-year data. Baka every March talagang bumababa yung business mo. Maybe you have a seasonal business. Talagang walang naghahanap ng business mo tuwing March, kaya bumaba ang organic traffic mo. So whenever you're looking at that data in Google Analytics, check the data year over year. Kung every year naman bumaba, hindi, baka ganun lang talaga. Now, Google Trends. Pag alam mo yung mga main keywords that contributes the most to your traffic, then you could use some of these keywords within Google Trends. I believe that's trends.google.com. Type in the keyword and just see if the trend of people searching for that word actually went down on the month na bumaba ang organic traffic mo. Baka wala lang talaga naghahanap. Kaya, so that's another thing to look at. Now, read observations from others with caution. Now, let's say madami ang nakapansin na bumaba ang ranking nila or what, or may confirm update. Let's say Google even said, hey, there's a core update. It's gonna happen on this date, this month, whatever. And then biglang labasan yung mga blog posts. Ito yung nangyayari. What you need to know about the May core update. Tapos kanya-kanyang blog, itong mga iba-ibang SEO. And some SEOs actually do a good job in really observing and compiling data from multiple sources to really try to understand what is happening. Tapos meron din yung mga iba, ride on ako sa bandwagon, kailangan may blog post ako agad tungkol sa update para magka-traffic ako. And sometimes they're not good themselves. Their observation is not good. So just take a note of that. when you're reading it, read it with caution, because sometimes hindi rin nila alam sinasabi nila eh. Tao-tao rin, and everyone does different observations, and everyone could observe in a different way. They could be doing it correctly or incorrectly, or maybe they're looking at it in a different angle na hindi naman dapat ganun ang pagtingin nila, but just take a note of that. Okay. So, what do Google people know? People from Google themselves, because Google doesn't tell you everything. So in this outline, I'm now here. Google doesn't tell you everything. So first is there is a history of hiding information. Let's just start with keyword research alone. Before sa keyword research, AdWords had their own keyword research tool before it was called Keyword Planner, and they had a separate tool called I don't even remember the name, pero hiwalay yung Google Keyword Research tool for organic search. Iba rin yung for AdWords. So search volume numbers were different. They killed the organic search one kasi it was giving too much information to the SEO. Now, there was also an old tool of the keyword wonder wheel of how one keyword was related to other keywords. They killed that tool as well. I think as long as it's giving too much information already, that they feel that it's equipping the SEO to understand the algorithm better, or they make so many tools that scrape information from these tools, that's when they kill it. Now, sa the current keyword planner, the search volumes are large ranges. They used to give you more detailed information. Before, when you do keywords like, let's say, bacon and eggs and bacon, eggs, bacon without the end, dati, talagang detailed ang search volume nila. They give differences in the number. Now, if you do that in Ad Planner, Google search ads, they're all going to be the same range. Bacon and eggs and bacon, eggs, bacon, they would all have the same number. Maybe it's 1,000 to 10,000. It's a large range. You don't even know kung ano talaga yung search volume. Yung ranges ngayon is 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000. Dinadagdagan lang nila ng zero sa dulo. So they're hiding a lot of information already. Now, keyword performance. Sa Google Search Console, they'll give you your top keywords. They'll give you the top 1,000, but they don't give beyond that because they don't want to tell you. They just want to tell you the top 1,000. Pero a tip here is if you go in daily, the top 1,000 could be a different top 1,000 for the day. And if you go in daily and you export it daily, you'll get more than 1,000. And there are some tools that actually do that automatically for you. They'll just compile all your Google Search Console keywords on a daily basis. And then mapapansin mo, ang bilis umabot ng 100,000 keywords that Google Search Console is reporting for. Google Analytics. Maybe all of you already know the keyword not provided within the acquisition reports under keyword. Probably more than 90% is not provided. And most of that is from Google. The ones that, kung may keyword information man pumasok dyan sa GA, it's from other search engines that are not popular. It's not even Bing and Yahoo. Google Search Console and Google Analytics. They'll give you the landing page, but they'll not tell you the keyword. If they tell you the keyword, they're not going to tell you which landing page. They don't put it together in a single report. And makikita mo yan sa Google Search Console, you know, the query keywords. You could see the query keywords and you could see the landing pages, but you can't put them together. Same with GA. So some people rely on third-party tools to do that. And it's still not the exact number, but it's a good way to estimate it. Combining your ranking data with your GA data, putting them together, and you could kind of associate what keyword goes to what page. Backlink data, backlink. Dati may link operator. Pwede mo i-type sa Google, link colon domain name. Then bibigay niya lahat ng website na nag-link sa'yo. They don't give that anymore. GSC is the one that they still give some data, but again, it's the top 1,000. Today, SEOs rely on third-party tools because Google won't tell you. So there's the top crawlers from, Ahrefs, Majestic, Systrix, Moz, Link Research Tools, Cognitive, and so on. Now, conferences, deflecting questions. If they feel that, they don't want to answer your question, syempre, hindi nila sasagutin. They find a way to not answer it. Now, banning sites on the spot. This is funny during conferences when some people complain and there's a Google rep. Either they're part of the panel or maybe they're just in the audience. And if someone is talking about something black hat, if the biggest mistake is sometimes the people asking questions give their domain names, give their URLs. Take a look at my site. Why is this like this? And they mention so many black hat practices. The very next day, the site is banned. But it's funny. And that's not necessarily hiding information because they still don't answer the question. And then the site disappears the next day. It's not indexed anymore. Anyway, so just letting you know that if Google just doesn't answer everything. So you don't always rely on them for answers relating to algorithm updates. But if they are willing to tell you something about an algorithm update, most likely it's true. But kung kulang talaga. Hindi mo makukuha yung complete information. Okay, so not everyone from Google understands Google. And where are we? Right there. Halfway through. So bakit not everyone from Google understands Google? First is there's independent departments. There's the webmaster. I called the Search Console team. I was going to say Webmaster Tools team, which is the old name. There's the Search Console team, and there's the whatever Google Spam team and whatever team. Now, sometimes they don't necessarily always talk to each other. They may know bits and informations about stuff, but since they work independently, one person may not know about the other things. And how international is this people and participants? I'm just quickly scrolling down. Puro mga Pilipino naman tayo, di ba? Kasi nagtatagalog ako eh. Hindi naman prinomote ito sa labas, ano? And anyway, I am not a fan of Gary from Google. Kaya tinignan ko yung participants list. His last name, he never pronounces his last name. He just says always, Ilyes, I don't know. But he just says, call me Gary whenever you ask him. How do you pronounce your last name? Just call me Gary. That's what he always says. But I believe among the people from Google, he's the one that doesn't know how things work the most. He knows a lot though. He knows a lot how things work. But sometimes when the question is too specific to algorithms and whatnot, he may give an answer that is seems to be inconsistent with so many things. And the main person that calls him out before in conferences, I recall, is Danny Sullivan in SMX conferences. There's always a session called Ask the Search Engines, and Danny is typically the one that calls him out and says, no, you don't understand. You don't know what you're saying. Sinasabihan niya yung empleyado ng Google na hindi niya talaga naintindihan ng Google. And it's sometimes humorous when you're there and you're watching it happen. And he calls him out because since Danny Sullivan's so aware of this, he's been reporting on SEOs for so many years, he could quote so many other Google employees, and then he would say, sabi ni ganito, sabi ni ganito, ikaw lang nagsasabi yan. And then suddenly, it just shows how much he knows. Now, of course, there's other people that may know more. I typically like John Mueller on his replies. Sometimes it's a bit cryptic also what he's saying. Of course, personal favorite, but he's no longer with Google, is Matt Cutts. Matt Cutts was the best in answering many questions. He would always say what he knows what Google does, what he thinks is his opinion, and how he thinks Google should work, but he's not confirming that that's how Google works. He almost had that pattern in his replies. But again, not everyone understands. Now, RankBrain. What is RankBrain? Maybe some of you already know what RankBrain is, but when the RankBrain update came out, this is where Google applied lots of machine learning. And since it's machine learning, a lot of people don't even understand what is happening anymore. And that is very typical in machine learning. Kaya nga ginamit yung machine learning kasi hindi nahihirapan yung utak ng tao eh. Now, I want to share something that I experienced at a conference. It's the Search Love Conference. And if you're aware of the Search Love Conference, this is run by the people that own Distilled. Distilled is somewhat of an agency, but they also have SEO tools. They have a nice A/B testing tool. I'm not working for them, and I'm not promoting them. I don't earn anything from promoting them, but they do have a nice A/B testing tool for SEO purposes. Now, one of the speakers during that time was from Distilled. And he wanted to talk about RankBrain basically and all the other algorithm updates. And how he started his presentation, he showed screenshots of two different sites. And then he gave details like, this is the title tag, this is the H1 tag, this is the meta description, this is the number of words, this is the number of backlinks, whatever. And then he would ask the audience, who thinks that site A ranks higher than site B? All stand up. And then, who thinks site B? And then everyone stand. And then sasabihin niya, oh, okay, the winner, the people that are correct are the ones that think site A rank. All the rest that are wrong, sit down. So may mapapansin mo, kalahati agad ng room na wala. and the funny thing is, most of the participants are SEO people. So that even tells you SEO people don't really know which site's supposed to rank higher. And then he does another screenshot. Papakita uli siya ng dalawang site. Sasabihin niya uli, may screenshot, tapos papakita niya yung title tag, na the description, H1, number of words, number of backlinks, etc., etc. Tapos tatanong niya, who thinks site A ranks higher than site B, etc., etc. Hanggang kalahati uli mawawala, hanggang lahat mawawala. But basically, ang gusto lang palabasin ng test is, no one really knows how, even though you know so much about the different ranking factors, you know how much, what the ranking factors are. You know, you put a keyword in the title, the meta description, the heading tag, alt text, and whatever. It's crawlable. You use your XML sitemap, make sure your robots.txt crawls the site, and so on. Do your submissions, schema.org, so everything. Let's say all the ranking factors in your head, alam mo. Pero oras na tinignan mo ang site kung sino mas mataas ang ranking, hindi mo talaga alam kung sino. And what Distilled did is they did that same test. They did it to people that work in the SEO industry, people that don't work in the SEO industry, and basically yun. And napansin nila, halos pareho lang yung results. Walang pinagkaiba. It's near 50-50. So it's almost like no one really knows. It's near a coin flip. So you could just flip a coin just to say which site ranks higher or not. So what Distilled did was they used one of the open source machine learning scripts out there. I believe they used TensorFlow, and they started training their machine learning by feeding the different ranking factors that we are all aware of. And they've noticed that when you use machine learning to help determine what site ranks higher or lower, it was closer to the truth. It was better than humans. So the main lesson there is, even though you know what the ranking factors are, you still don't know what's going to rank high. Since RankBrain came out, and even people from Google don't know, because they're not machine learning people. They know it's not in their head. They just know the factors that affect ranking. But ever since they applied RankBrain, suddenly it's like, okay, let's see what comes out. Let's see what ranks high, and then you know, and to order to understand it more, you have to do machine learning yourself. Another thing that I want to mention, and this was in a different conference, and the presenter is the owner of Search Metrics, and he has presented this in multiple conferences. Maybe if you try to Google this, you'll find his presentation. But ranking factors are very industry specific ever since RankBrain came out. So sometimes, let's say, number of links, importante ba sa ranking o hindi? And what search metrics did was they started looking at different ranking factors, keyword in the title, length of the title tag, length of content, whatever, and they started comparing it in different industries. And ang napansin nila, some industries, some ranking factors are more important, and in some industries, ranking factors are less important. So, having said that, algorithm, see, Google doesn't know themselves. Google people don't know themselves. RankBrain is doing its own thing, and the results of it have been industry specific. So some ranking factors affect some industries more than others. Closed door meetings with SEOs. Ano ito? Since Google doesn't understand everything from Google, they also rely on SEO's feedback. Isang beses lang ako nasama dito sa closed door meeting with SEOs. I think other SEOs mas madaming beses. But basically, whenever the SMX conference is in San Jose, California, you'll just receive a random email from Google saying, hey, you're invited to the meeting, blah, 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 at our Mountain View office, pupunta ka dito. So, na-invite ako minsan. Feeling ko, importante ko talaga, kilala na ako. Parang palakpak yung tenga ko nung nakatanggap ang email na sinama ko sa meeting. Anyway, and this is where you see all the other big names, all the other people that you see that blog about stuff. And then you just ask everything. What do you think of the results? What do you think of the update? What do you think of our local results? Ano yung main na reklamo nyo? Then salita lang ng salita lahat ng SEOs. And then the main thing that they say is no picture taking, no blogging. There's lots of things that are not allowed. So kung ano man ang naging resulta nun, walang kwentuhan sa labas. Yun yung parang sinasabi ng Google. Doon mo makikita yung mga ebang SEO na talagang parang reklamo to the max. And si Aleida yung isa sa mga malakas magreklamo. Tsaka si Barry Schwartz, pareho sila. Reklamo to the max. Akala mo parang empleyado sila ng Google. Hindi naman. They're using their service, pero okay, whatever. But I guess it also helps improve how Google works. So basically what I'm saying here is not everyone from Google understands how Google works. So sometimes even when they make a statement publicly, on how they think Google should work, sometimes it's not that accurate. Okay, even in an algorithm update, they think that the update should affect these types of sites, and sometimes it's not, 100% accurate as well. So not every test is done properly. Now, ang gusto ko lang sabihin dito is, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, whenever you're looking at an algorithm update and you're reading findings of some other SEO or findings of another company, ito yung findings nila. Read it well. And one thing that I want to always consider is the test environment. How did they actually test it? What are the factors involved in that test environment? And whenever you're testing the effect of one factor, are the other factors constant? Because baka yung ibang factor ang nakaka-affect ng ranking. Salamat, Kim, nag-t-shirt ka na. Okay, so there's different SEO factors. Now, in these SEO factors, sometimes sabihin natin tinitignan mo ang number of words, effect ng number of words. You look at so many websites and biglang napansin mo, oh, yung mga words na less than 1,000, sila yung apektado ng algorithm update. But who knows, maybe it's another factor. They didn't consider, the backlink profile of these sites. They didn't consider the whatever of these sites. So there could be many factors. So whenever there is someone stating their results, read well how they tested it, because sometimes their test may not be effective at all. Okay. So what is happening in a core update? Alam niyo ang big answer dito? Ang big answer is, I don't know. Okay, so whenever Google says they have a core update, what are they saying? They actually don't say anything. They just say they have a core update. So how do you know what is happening? And again, it goes back to the same thing, observations of others. There's tools and there's people. Now, usually, why do companies that are generally tools share their observations? Because most of these tools have rank tracking data. So these tools would be, everyone that tracks ranking, from SEMrush, Conductor, Searchmetrics, SEO Clarity, Bright Edge, Rank Ranger, SERP Fox, whoever, everyone that tracks a large amounts of ranking, kasi lahat ng kliyente nila may keywords. Lahat ng keywords ng kliyente nila, trina-track nila. They don't share which websites or from what client is ranking for what, but from there, basically, they could aggregate the data, come up with generalizations of general observations, and from there, with their shared observation, then that's where you determine what is happening in a core update. When this is all done, and if ever we have time and you have questions, maybe we could even walk through this process. Choose an update, we look at it, and then we try to determine what was affected. Okay. Now, before I go here, let me just quickly scroll through these. No, do I pause for these questions? Do I read them out? Or tapusin ko na to? Dire-diretsohin ko na. And then basahin ko uli yung questions.
Usually dire-diretso na tayo, tapos isang bagsak din natin sasagutin lahat ng questions.
Okay. Okay. Now, since I did this last minute, this is the part na wala na akong slides. Wala nang kwento. But anyways, halos lahat naman ng slides ko is just an outline. Wala naman ako talagang present. There's no screenshots. There's no links to anything. But again, in the Q&A, we could go ahead and talk about it further. So, that very first part, worry-free SEO. I really have no slide for it. So, again, what do you do in SEO para wala kang problema pag may update na dumating? Hindi ka apektado. So the first thing is, how SEO is broken down. There's on-page and off-page. And now in on-page, I further break that down. There's codes and server settings, and there's content. Now, when it comes to server settings and code, there's a lot of things there. But the main thing that you have to know is the site should be crawlable, the site should be indexable. If ever there's any challenges for Google to see your content, then that is a problem. If ever there is any content that you're intentionally hiding to manipulate ranking, then that's a problem. Of course, you want to avoid that. There's no cloaking of content, showing what you actually have, making sure your site is crawlable, then that's good in that aspect. Now, on the content side of things, there's lots of ways to come up with content. And there's content that is meant for selling a product or service. They're very descriptive, and they help out users to find products and services based on those descriptions. Now, what I see that a lot of companies sometimes fail is talking about the application, coming up with support pages, just go into try to think in the shoes of the customer try to think of all types of challenges they have, and if ever that challenge comes up with something that they would want to search, then you should have a dedicated page for it. Now, when it comes to content where you're trying to gain more links, then this is where we stretch the relevance. We come up with related topics that would be more prone to be shared online. And sometimes when people think, oh, I need more content, I need more content, I need good quality content. And sometimes when you say that to some people, they don't really get it. Akala lang nila, oh, dapat, oh, araw-araw ako mag-vlog. Kasi dapat may content, dapat may vlog. Oh, vlog ako ng vlog. But if the blog posts are really worthless, or they don't provide any value to the user, then parang baliwala din. It should provide value. It should be useful to the user, and it should be easy to share, and it should be compelling to share. Okay, because the more you share it, the more it gets online, the more it spreads, more people tend to link to it. Okay, so basically, those general practices should give you no problems whenever some type of algorithm update happens. The ones that should worry when algorithm updates happen is if you're doing something too aggressively, if you're doing something black hat, or if you're trying to manipulate rankings in a way that Google doesn't like. I tried to consider the use of the word manipulate, because sometimes some people say, no matter what you do in SEO, you're trying to manipulate rankings anyway, even though you're doing it in a white hat way. So to be clear, manipulate it in a way that Google doesn't like, basically in general. So significant updates, tips, pointers, and guides. Since I don't have any slides here anymore, and I have the pre-Panda and post-Panda. Why do I want to talk about this? Because sometimes I see questions. I see questions within the Facebook group, the SEO page, organization page, Facebook group. There are some people that ask questions that sometimes in the question alone, you already know it's related to an old practice. And when it's related to an old practice that you know Google has problems with, and they already came up with algorithm updates that tries to make these practices not work anymore, you start to question, where is their information coming from? Saan nila nakukuha? Bakit nila naisip ang idea na to? And maybe they're reading something outdated. They got it from some outdated website, some outdated blog post, some outdated ebook, and how it's marketed. And sometimes this outdated stuff sometimes make money through affiliate marketing, or they're selling an ebook or whatnot na pagka-explain nila parang, oh, gumagana pa rin to. How they sell it makes it so compelling to think this still works. But sometimes the person selling the information just wants to make more money, basically. And it doesn't really work anymore. And the reason why I'm going into this, into the pre-Panda and post-Panda, is just to give you an idea kung ano yung apektado ng updates na to. Just if ever there's other people on the call that think that their practices, this is just to show what was done before Panda, after Panda, before Penguin, just to see if your practices fall in any of these. And if you're wondering why, and if you're just not aware, if you were just not aware na ganun pala yun, at least you know now. Okay, so the Panda update was all about quality content. And in the quality content, basically, Google wants to know if the content that is on the page is good quality or not. Paano mo ba malalaman yun? Paano mo ba words lang naman yan? How is Google smart enough to determine if the words on the page are actually good or not? Okay, so there's multiple ways to do that. And let's think of, and I'll just go through some of these. Now, I believe it was 2004, very early, or 2006 maybe, when Google purchased a company called Applied Semantics. And that was very early in the stage. And as you go along and go through the algorithm history, from Hummingbird, there was a Hummingbird update, and several of the core updates, even several of the Panda updates, you'll see a common theme where they say that Google understands the context better. There's many updates like that in the past. Google understands the context of your words better. Okay? Paano niya naiintindihan yun? Kasi ang laki na ng collection ng words, ang laki na ng collection ng paragraphs. How a word is used within sentences and within paragraphs, parang nalalaman na Google, ganito pala ang paggamit ng word na yun. And when this word occurs with this other word, ganito pala ang paggamit nun. And from that alone, if someone is just stuffing words in there para lang humaba yung sinulat o para lang magamit ng isang keyword, Google kind of knows that already. And then, second verification. Do people click on it? Do people visit it? Do people link to it? So all of those are quality factors already. Do people click on it sa Google search results? Do people click on the results on Google? And do they hit the back button? And some people say, dapat ba nakalagin ka sa Google? Pag hindi ka nakalagin sa Google o incognito ka, alam ba ni Google na clinic mo yun? Actually, yes. And one thing that not many people observe is when you're logged out of Google and every link, there's actually parameters being passed. There's parameters that are being passed to Google for every click that is happening. Mukha lang wala, but if you go to the browser developer tools and you go to the network hits, makikita mo ang daming pinapasa sa Google, just determining determining click-through rates. And the fact that the data is within Google Search Console, of course they know the click-through rate because the click-through rate is already there. Now, another thing, not many people know this because this was in the past, but Google used to have a feature where when you click on a result and you hit the back button, may question dati sa ilalim ng search result to the effect na parang, what is this a bad result? Did this result serve you well or something like that? Parang yes or no answer. And then parang may tanong siya, gusto mo bang i-exclude ito? Gusto mo bang i-exclude ito next time na mag-load ang search results? They used to have that question when you hit the back button right away. And then people started using it. They started doing a yes, no, yes, no. Now that feature no longer appears. But what happened in that period? That was already an experiment by Google where it was collecting data. And if they saw a strong correlation of people clicking the back button and saying exclude the result, then that is a strong indicator that people that hit the back button basically don't want to see that result at all. So that is another collection of data. People that hit the back button, a bounce, and then they go on to the next result. And then again, how do they know if the quality is good? If people talk about it, link to it. So again, it goes back to links, and they're already crawling the internet, so they know the number of links. Now, a tip there on the quality of link. Since the back button is you want to avoid people hitting the back button. So my tip here is sometimes when your page is ranking for a search result, pero hindi yun ang hinahanap ng tao, it would be nice that on that page, somewhere on the sidebar or somewhere on the page, it kind of indicates every other possibility of what a person could be searching for. So let's think of an example. Mention an industry. Anyone type in an industry or a type of business dyan sa chat, and then mag-isip tayong example para sa business na yun. Someone type in something. Oh, So the first one that came in was real estate. Okay, so let's say real estate ang pumasok. Now, when someone types in real estate or searching for real estate, they could do different things: buy a home, buy a house, buy house zip code, buy house address, buy whatever, or houses in something. Now, yung search result na yun, let's say, ang intent ko talaga magrenta ng bahay, hindi bumili. Hindi bumili. So let's say, dahil nagsa-search ako ng mga bahay na irerenta, pero nagkataon, ang tinype ko, houses in San Diego, California. Tapos may lumabas na result. Clinic ko yung una. Tapos nakita ko for sale lang, hindi for rent. Hinit ko kagad ang back button. Kaso, parang naging minus points yun sa website na yun. So to avoid that, what if my sidebar or somewhere on the page prominently above the fold said, are you looking to rent, to buy? Parang binibigay mo ng iba-ibang option. Because if you give those other options, because it was not in alignment with the search intent of the user, then they stayed. You aligned them and they stayed, and you avoided the back button. You avoided the bounce. So that is one tip. One person, actually, I will quote, Todd Malicot, he called this the second call to action. Bale, may call to action ka na, may second call to action ka pa. Yung second call to action is, once you land on the page, iba pa yung call to action mo, iba pa yung, itong call to action na to, para lang magstay yung tao. Para lang hindi niya i-hit yung back button. Kasi nag-misalign yung intent dun sa keyword. Kasi minsan yung keyword, iba-iba naman ang intent ng tao. Especially the shorter the keyword, the more general it is, the more you don't know what the intent is. The longer the keyword phrase, the more specific it is, mas lalo mong nalalaman yung intent. Pag alam mo yung intent, di, ayun, mas na-avoid mo yung back button. Okay? So, that is about, Panda is all about the quality. So, ano yung mga practices na pinatay na to with this algorithm update? And why am I even mentioning these three? Panda, Penguin, and RankBrain. Kasi sila, the first two is maraming apektado. Yan ang updates na pinakamaraming apektado. While the last one was maraming hindi na nakakaintindi ko nangyari sa Google ever since RankBrain came out. So in the Panda update, content spinning, and article submissions, basically yun yung pinaka-apektado. If ever you are doing any of these practices, of course, they don't work anymore. Penguin update is more of knowing the quality of links. Again, there's many ways to determine kung gaano ka ganda o pangit ang isang link. From relevancy, from the networks they link out to, kung sila lang ang nagli-link through cluster analysis, and whatnot. There are some tools that are dedicated alone to determine if a link is good or bad from a Penguin standpoint. And if you have bad links that push down ranking because of the Penguin update, then you want to avoid that. Basically, there are websites that blatantly show signs na binili ang link na yun, which you want to avoid. And there are some that this is a blog network that we want to avoid. The PBNs, basically. So yun ang mga pinatay ng Penguin update. So if ever you're involved in any practices na parang nagpapadami lang ng quantity ng links and not really gaining your links in a natural way, most likely, apektado ka ng Penguin. Now, pre-RankBrain and post-RankBrain. Pre-RankBrain is, there were some ranking factors that you basically know how everything works. Now, when that update came out, and I already explained earlier in the previous slides of the different experiments from distilled to search metrics, where this seems to be industry specific, where ranking factors kind of behave differently in different industries. So my practices, what I tend to do these days, is I look at the competitors that appear on page 1. So a common question you may get from clients, is my content too short? Is my content too long? Is my internal links too many? Is my internal links too few? And just knowing the experiments of search metrics where they shared similar results in different industries, and the trend was different per industry. And they were even selling these reports, and I wasn't buying them. But just knowing that that's the behavior, then what I tend to do is I look at the top 10. What is the typical length of the content? What is the typical number of internal links? And just looking from there and kind of determining if that is a factor or not. If it's indefinite, where the top 10 meron website na 500 words lang to, itong kabila 3,000, then that just shows it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as it serves the user well. But that is just my practice these days. Whenever RankBrain, since the RankBrain update came out, is just pay attention to the top 10 results. And see how Google ranks that industry, and work on it. Just to give you an idea of that is there was a client that I worked on in the past that was iniisip ko kung sasabihin ko yung industry. Is an auto parts store. Kaya ko lang iniisip kasi I know in the Philippines, there's a large population of people from US auto parts. And the website I worked on, of course, is a competitor kasi I didn't work on US auto parts. So hindi ko na babanggitin ko sino yung company. But one thing when that landed on my plate from another SEO company, ang sabi nung may-ari ng company, or the marketing person, not yung may-ari, sabi, ang recommendation ng former SEO namin is bawasan namin yung internal links kasi yung auto parts usually pag-click mo ng parts, brand, may drop down, expand year, model, make model year, ang daming internal links sa isang page. Parang lumalampas ng talagang lalampas ng 100, and there was a time when Google had in their webmaster guidelines saying ideally not more than 100 ang internal links, or links in general on a single page. But and that was the recommendation of the former SEO. And then they asked me kung totoo ba yun. And then what I did was, well, since I know this is industry specific, I just looked at the top 10 and look at everyone. Lahat sila sobrang dami ang links. Lahat sila lampas 100. So that clearly tells me in this industry, it doesn't matter to have too many. So that it was fine. So that was that. And I basically have no slides as I was going through each one. And here's the end. Thanks.
Proceed na siguro tayo sa question and answer natin. So yung first question would be for both you and Jason. Ako muna magtatanong, syempre, kasi ako yung host, tapos yung sa ibang listeners na lang. So ako, personally, ang napansin ko, whenever there's a core algorithm update, meaning parang hindi siya related sa panda, penguin, or any other animal that they choose to name a big update for. Pag meron core algo update, usually either unannounced or vaguely announced. Sasabihin nila, meron, and then wala nang ibang details. And then magkakaroon ng behavior ng bloggers, kagaya ng sabi ni Sir Benj kanina, na everyone will have, well, not everyone, pero a lot of those who closely monitor yung algorithm changes will blog about it. And the common thing that I see is everyone will talk about EAT, or tawag dito, make your site better, ganun, something vague like that. And sometimes it feels like a cop-out. Of course, you need to improve your EAT. Like, with or without a core algorithm update, kumbaga, founded nga dyan sa EAT yung yung quality rater guidelines. So for the benefit of people who are a bit more new or have more limited experience in terms of diversity of websites, can you guys talk about EAT and how to improve it?
Yun. Kasi ako, yung medyo focus ko ngayon, more on yun na, sa parang marketing side of SEO na. And medyo malaki yung touch nung aspect na yan sa EAT since more on branding talaga yung ano. And yeah, since last year siguro, yung approach ko na rin talaga sa SEO, every time merong malaking update, parang basa lang kung ano observations sa iba. Kadalasan check out ko talaga yun sa search metrics, rank ranger, pinaka-importante si Glenn Gabe. Kumbaga yung mga insights niya, parang tsaka yung mga minomonitor niya na industries, medyo pasok din sa mga interesado ako na industries. Although nagbabasa ako ng mga nila, kahit pa paano, meron din ako ma-check na sa sarili ko. And most importantly, parang hindi ako umasa sa isang aspect lang ng optimization na kailangan mo mag-focus. So parang I make it to a point na every 2 months, lahat ng hawak ko na sa consulting gigs ko or sa campaigns namin na hawak namin yung technical side ng optimization na talagang kailangan may general cleaning every 2 months if possible. Kasi yun nga, na-mention din ni Glenn Gabe yun, yung parang best way to thrive talaga sa search-driven na business model or kung may campaign ka na talagang majority ng traffic na galing sa search is to make sure na lahat ng aspeto ng mapa-technical content, links, and experience, dapat talaga lahat na-optimize mo na maigi. And isa sa mga ginagawa ko talaga is, yun, syempre kailangan talaga may paid tools ka pa rin eh. So meron lang akong site auditing tool na parang every month may monthly report kung meron ba may mga kulang ba akong ginagawa. Isa rin na dapat check yung sa GSC. Usually meron ba silang mga email reports. Tapos feeling ko parang lumayo yata ako sa tanong eh. Ano ulit yung tanong?
EAT parang.
EAT, ayan. So getting back, kasi parang feeling ko yung 80 halo talaga siya ng technical and yung sa marketing side din talaga. Although parang yung misconception kasi sa EAT ngayon parang kailangan marami ka masyadong links. Pero feeling ko yung EAT kahit yung mga brand mentions lang, tapos basta yung mentions na yun, maganda yung context, maganda yung sentiment ng pagka-mention. And kung sino ba yung nag-mention sa'yo. Plus kung ano ba yung ginagawa mismo sa website mo, yung content mo, accurate ba. So parang combination talaga siya ng lahat ng mga branding methods na ginagawa offline na parang nagta-transition lang online. Ako, yun lang siguro yung parang take ko sa EAT. And feeling ko, malaki yung possibility na lahat ng mga updates simula nung last year hanggang sa yung mga ngayon yung broadcore na recent. I think malaking bagay doon sa EAT rin talaga.
Sir Benj?
Okay. EAT. So, may mga aware dyan. Siyempre, SEO group tayo. Maraming aware na ang EAT kung ano yun. But for those that are not aware, siyempre, yung expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Yun yung EAT. Ngayon, even before EAT lumabas, matagal ko na rin sinasabi, I used to say something else. Hindi ko sinasabing EAT. Siguro even some that recall yung mga talks ko sa mga previous conferences, kahit sa Pilipinas or recording or whatever, meron akong sinasabi noon pero hindi EAT. Sinasabi ko CAT. Meow! Ngayon, ano yung CAT? Credibility, yun lang yung pinagkaiba ko. Credibility, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Noong ko pa yung sinasabi, bago pa lumabas yung EAT. Pero kung tutusin mo, if you have the expertise, you become credible. So, okay. So, for you to really have that great content na pag tinignan ng tao, pag nakita nila na you do have the expertise, you are an authority, you are trustworthy, then that you basically yun na yung formula mo eh. To be the main person in that industry. Ang dating exercise na ginagawa ko, or usually when I have a new client, may bagong kliyente, SEO client na pumasok, sabihin natin, alam na natin hindi siya yung main player, hindi siya yung number 1 sa industry niya. May big player siyang kalaban. Pero tinatanong ko pa rin siya, saan kayo magaling? Anong competitive advantage ninyo? Ano yung matindi sa inyo? Kasi yun ang ilalabas natin. Kasi doon kayo magaling. That's your expertise. Na if alam nyo na sa malit na area na to, doon kayo matindi, edi yun ang ipagmalaki natin. So, if you're looking at it, sabi natin, naalala ko lang dati yung pagbili ko ng kotse. Pagbili ko ng kotse noon dito sa USA, ang naging decision ko was really the warranty. The warranty na may 10-year warranty with 100,000 miles drivetrain warranty with whichever comes first. Yun yung naging selling factor ko. Hindi yung speed, yung sporty o horsepower o ano. Now, different industries show different things. Iba-iba yung pinagmamalaki nila. So, dahil yun yung hinahanap ko, and let's say a business, yun yung strength niya is a small aspect of the whole product. Yun ang pinagmamalaki niya. Di yun ang ilabas mo ng todo kasi doon ka na magaling, doon ka authoritative, doon ka trustworthy. Ipagmalaki mo yun, create content that specifically caters to that. And then, yeah, basically, yun. So, okay.
John, any questions from the audience?
We have a few. The first from Timothy na regular guest natin po, regular listener, watcher natin. Medyo black hat related yata yung question niya, but I'll ask it anyway. Can you systematically penalize a competitor's website by building spammy backlinks to their site than having multiple people submit the website to Google?
Sino muna?
Sige sir, kayo na muna and then sige.
Okay. Good question. First is, if ever you are submitting, spammy links, I'm always not 100% sure that that works 100% of the time. Sometimes I've even seen it the other way, na parang tumaas lalo yung ranking kasi it wasn't spammy enough. It wasn't spammy enough to be considered as spammy links. So that is one thing that I want to be cautious of. Pangalawa, if it's submitted multiple times to Google and you try to report it to Google, yung site owner naman or the SEO or marketing person of the site, ano mangyayari naman sa kanya if Google took some action? Most likely they will receive some type of message sa search console nila saying the site is penalized due to these spammy links, ganito. Ang gagawin naman ng site owner na to, papatunayan niyang hindi yun totoo. He'll do his own investigation. He'll try to do some disavows and whatnot. And then from there, magde-decide naman si Google ano yung gagawin niya. So, if he gets to prove it well, kung kaya niyang patunayan ng todo na hindi niya kagagawan yun, edi magiging walang epekto. Magiging walang epekto yung ginawa mo. Kung it looks convincing enough na kunwari gawa niya yun, edi dun siya maapektuhan. But I think it's, if ever, but I don't. If ever I would want to push a website down, a competitor website down, but I don't do it, is I won't do this. I won't do it this way. I would do it in another way. Hindi ko yun i-share. But I think one thing that I would say is, isipin ko muna kung gusto kong sabihin, Isipin ko muna kung gusto kong sabihin. Okay, pushing down websites, I definitely don't do. I don't like doing. I feel it's bad. I feel it's unethical. It's not the right thing to do. However, I do have experience pushing down websites for clients, not because they are a competitor, more for ORM purposes or online reputation management. Now, the different clients there's different. There are some that welcome the black hat side. There are some that don't. And the ones that don't, of course, you don't do anything black hat. The ones that do say do anything white hat, black hat, wala akong pakialam. Ganito kataas ang babayad ko sa iyo. Oh, yes, money. Okay. So you do anything. And once you get that client and you do anything, then that's the time when I do it. And it's usually for an ORM purpose, and it's not for not for an SEO ranking purpose. Basically, and most of the time, it's the same sites that you want to push down. It's Ripoff Report, Complaints Board, PIS Consumer, Consumer something, I forgot. Apat lang na sites yun. Yun lang yung apat na laging tinatry kong i-push down. And there are times I'm successful, and I don't use that method because that method was not effective for me.
Okay, Jason?
Ayun. Dati gumagana siya yung negative SEO. Kasi ako naging target doon ako twice. So, nung yung panahon na reconsideration request pa, kailangan bale manual action na mga penalty, yun yung medyo madali counter since gagawin mo naman, magko-compile ka ng list ng mga links na hindi naman talaga kayo gumawa, tapos send mo lang via Webmaster Tools dati. Pero parang 2015 yata, not sure kung 2015 or earlier pa, parang merong iteration ng Penguin na before algorithmically parang yung mga manipulative links, mga spammy na links, parang kaya niya i-demote yung rankings ng page kung saan nagdadirect yung mga spammy na links yan, or yung overall na mismong ranking capability ng website made-decrease. Although yung dun sa parang update ng 2015 yata ng Penguin, sabi nila, parang instead of demoting, parang nade-devalue na lang yung links. So wala na talagang, parang pagka merong certain filters na pasok dun sa mga links na yun, parang as in wala na silang napapasa. So mapa-penalty man or mapa-boost, wala talaga sa madadagdag dun sa ano. So sa ngayon, feeling ko talagang ano na lang, siguro gusto ko matry na ako rin yung magne-negative SEO sa iba. Kasi never ko pa natatry talaga yun eh. Kasi feeling ko hindi ako yung best person to answer the question kasi mismo ako hindi ko naman ginagawa yun. So hindi ko alam kung effective siya. Although from the perspective na naging na-victimize nung ganong klase actions, feeling ko ngayon hindi siya gumagana since may site ako ngayon na ganun din. May mga negative links, may mga negative SEO campaigns pa rin na directed sa site na yun, pero parang hindi na siya gumagana. So yung short answer, I think, malaking possibility na no, yung spammy links.
Ako, just to add a little bit more, like sinabi na nila yung from the SEO side, pero even from a business standpoint, it does not make sense to do negative SEO kasi kung may competent, hindi man competent, halfway decent competent na SEO yung website na negative SEO mo, napakadali lang makita nung mga pangit na links and then i-disavow. Within a week or two, nakabawi na siya and then sayang lang yung effort mo sa pang-spam sa website niya. Baka mas malaki pa yung cost sa iyo kaysa sa cost sa kanya. So, even on that standpoint, it doesn't work. Pero I agree with Jason na for the vast majority of links on the web na medyo spammy, na i-ignore na ni Google eh. Parang konting-konti na lang talaga yung mga websites na medyo toxic talaga yung epekto sa rankings mo. So, medyo off siya. Like gamitin mo na lang yung ibang paraan para malagpasan mo siya, or if not, pahack mo na lang siya. Mag-hire ka na ng recruiter. So, yun.
Criminal na yun eh. Pag hinak mo na eh. Para sa akin. Borderline criminal na yun.
Tawag dito. John, may questions pa tayo?
Yes sir, meron tayo a few. From Freddy Estari, sir, I forgot to take note of the top rank tracking tool, but I tried using Moz Pro. Okay pa rin ba ito gamitin ngayon? Directed to Sir Benj.
Well, hindi ako fan of Moz, using it as a subscribe tool. Iba-iba ang kasama ng Moz, and I usually have a different equivalent tool for the different capabilities. So basically, andyan na yung ranking mo, andyan na yung analytics mo, andyan na yung backlink tools mo, and kung naman, whenever it comes to ranking, iba yung preferred ko. But again, it is a preferred. That is a word na pwedeng iba naman ang preference ng ibang tao. But for tracking ranking, I'm a fan of Authority Labs, AWR Cloud, Stat, and actually Dragon Metrics. And then when it comes to backlinks, Moz has their Open Site Explorer. I think they call it something else now.
Link Explorer, sir.
Yeah, Link Explorer, oo. Iba na yung term nila, and I'm also not a fan of that, just because of there was multiple blog posts in the past that compared the number of links of Moz, Link Explorer, Majestic, Ahrefs, and so on. And they were ones that had one of the fewer number of backlinks in their reports. So mukhang mas mabagal ang crawler nila compared sa iba. I'm more of a fan of Majestic and Ahrefs. However, from a reporting standpoint and how they slice and dice the data and report on it, I'm a fan of Link Research Tools, which I don't like their pricing model. Pamahal ang tool nila. But so sulit pa ba yung Moz? Maybe for some people. Pero para sa akin, hindi na ako fan ng Moz as a tool. I'm a fan of their company and what they preach and how they blog and explain things and stuff. Pero sa toolset nila, hindi na.
Ranking tools kasi Ahrefs lang ginagamit ko, tsaka meron akong try na yung Supermetrics, tapos nakahook sa Search Console data mo. So parang meron trending reports na medyo matik na nabubuo via Google Spreadsheets. So medyo mas mas accurate in a way kasi yung report nagagaling mismo sa averaging ng Search Console. Kaso medyo expensive yung Supermetrics. So pinag-isipan ko pa kung tatagal ba ako sa kanila, since medyo okay rin naman sa akin yung report ng yung rank tracking ng Ahrefs.
Pwede kong, dahil nabanggit ni Jason yung Search Console, siguro one thing I'm gonna highlight dun sa mga minention kong mga type ko, yung huling minention ko, Dragon Metrics. When you hook it up to Search Console, isa sila sa mga tool na dina-download lahat ng keywords from Search Console on a daily basis. Na pag nag-login ka sa keywords na na-detect ng Search Console, magugulat ka, 10,000, 100,000. Kasi araw-araw niyang hinuhugot eh. Unlike when you log into Search Console at any point in time, only the top 1,000 makukuha mo. But since the tool does it on a daily basis, ang laki ng makukuha niyang keywords from Search Console.
Yun. Ako, sisigundahan ko lang yung kay Sir Benj. Fan ako ng Moz as a brand. Not quite the tools. Although nag-improve na, to be fair to Moz, tawag dito, from Open Site Explorer nung naging Link Explorer, yung number of backlinks na nahuhugot niya, comparable na sa Majestic. Although yung medyo king pa rin ng paghanap ng backlinks si Ahrefs talaga eh. So that's how I would cut it. Medyo lamang yung trust flow na metric kasi ni Majestic. Marami ring clients na naghahanap nun. And in his book, kung binasa nyo na yung book ni Rand Fishkin, kahit siya, aminado naman siya na maraming limitasyon yung crawlers nila at that time. And then nagawa na lang nila ni Russ Jones ng paraan later on. Hindi na siya CEO at the time. So ayun. Another question, John?
We have a question here from our own SEO Lord. I think okay siyang question na, do Google updates affect sites globally, or is there data or evidence that suggests some local searches may remain unaffected by such updates? Addressed to anyone?
Okay, simulan ko.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, there has been evidence, and sometimes it's even publicly stated by Google, saying na even with algo updates, they say, ang apektado lang yung websites in this industry, or websites or local results only. So that is truly possible. That's truly possible na na maaring a smaller subset lang ang apektado of something. And that subset could be at a local level, or it could be even at a country level. So, ayun.
Jason?
Yeah, kasi since nung nag-start na kami na yun nga, medyo mas mag-monitor ng local searches, I mean sa Philippines, medyo pansin mo yung delay especially yung recent na in-announce nila na fully rolled out na yung May 2020 core algo update. Parang yung sa Philippines parang delayed naman siya. So feeling ko yun.
Sa pansin ko din, mga 2 days bago na-apektuhan yung traffic namin dun sa local site namin. So, yeah, I agree na may delay din talaga si Google sa localities. And you have to understand, even with all their computing power and resources, sa dami ng big data na kina-crunch nila, hindi talaga hindi talaga instantaneous. Okay, last 2 questions. Next question.
Okay, last 2 questions tayo. The next question from Daniel Savery. Will Google Ads cannibalize SEO as Google tries to put more money into ads? Sir Benj?
Not really. I mean, well, depends on. Well, they work independently. Iba yung ranking mo ng ng paid, iba yung ranking mo ng organic. But of course, ang laki ng kinakain niya sa sa above the fold. You know, whatever you pay for sa paid search, ang laki ng tulak pababa. And if you're gonna look at how the paid search industry works, they do have the quality score and everything, to the point na sometimes paid search ads are actually good. You want to click on them because they're actually good. Dati lagi mong iiwasan yan straight to organic ka. Pero minsan maganda naman yung result ng paid so i-click mo din. But in my opinion, if you have a company where you're running paid ads and you're running organic, doing both actually helps you dominate the page 1, helps you dominate pushing down all your other competitors. But there's always going to be people that would want to click on organic, and people that would want to click paid, and people that don't know the difference and click on anything. So I don't think there's a place for both. There's a place for both, even though both could be competing against the same keyword. But one thing I would say is paid, since it has a price to it, they always want a conversion for every keyword click. So there is a tendency where their keywords always have a buying intent. Now, if the keyword doesn't have a buying intent, sometimes some paid companies don't, some paid marketing campaigns or paid search campaigns, they don't pay for those types of keywords kung walang buying intent. What if it's a blog post? What if it's something funny? It's something viral. Someone would click on, someone would link to, and stuff like that. Minsan hindi na nagbibid ang paid search dyan kasi gastos lang The blog post is not meant to convert anyway. It's meant to be linked to. And unless the company is willing to spend for the promotion to gain more popularity and links. But pero dahil magastos yun and gusto lagi may conversion, I would say if it's something informational, something that has the intent to try to become viral, usually si organic ang namumuno dyan. Pero if it's a product or service that you're really selling and your keywords has a buying intent, then dyan maglalaban your organic tsaka paid. Pero just because they're going after the same keyword, for me, does it mean that they're going to compete against each other? They're actually helping dominate the competition and just looking at digital marketing combined.
Yun, kasi parang medyo nag-evolve na rin yung search results. So pati di na maiwasan na nag-evolve din yung behavior ng tao. Kasi for instance, organic pa lang, parang sobrang daming rich na interactive na elements na makikita sa results. Like yung knowledge panel, featured snippet, local pack results. Tapos kahit sa e-commerce, may PLA. So parang ang hirap din i-determine kung ano eh. Plus parang ang dami rin testing dun sa ads na parang may dati green siya, di ba? Tapos ngayon black na. So parang nag-blend na siya sa organic. So may time na actually naisip ko parang it's the other way around na baka mismong yung organic yung mag-cannibalize sa paid. Kasi parang sa sobrang sinasanay nila yung tao sa napaka-interactive na results na mas mag-depend na yung user sa, yun, yung parang instant na pagka nag-search ka, gusto mo yung sagot nasa harap mo na, like yun, yung feature snippet results. Tapos, eventually, malamang yung capability na makapag-transact through search results, malamang isasama rin sa mix ng mga pag-aaralan ng Google yan. So parang, right now, ako, naisip ko, yun nga, feeling ko branding pa rin talaga kasi pagka, usually, mga brands naman nagbibid pa rin para sa mga branded searches nila. Although parang minsan mas ma-observe mo kung paano yung treatment ni Google sa mga ganong klaseng searches na eventually feeling ko ganun yung kalalabasan ng mga normal na informational queries na parang sobrang halos alam na ni Google kung ano yung mga next na hanapin mo, like meron siya yung yung people also search for ba, parang ganun. So parang feeling ko yung page yung mas may kailangan humabol sa organic. Yun lang yung tingin ko.
Okay. John, last question. But before that, kung may pahabol pa kayong questions, don't be shy. Post nyo lang dun sa SEO or yung thread nitong session na to. Pwede nyong itanong doon. Tag nyo na lang si Jason, si Benj, if you have anything more to ask them. Siyempre, lunchtime, alam ko maraming hindi pa kumain sa inyo. So, ayoko naman na sisihin nyo yung hyperacidity nyo sa akin. So, ayun. Last question, John?
All right, mga sir, last question natin. From Albert, I tried to rephrase this in a way para mas direct yung answer ng question. But given a website, a hypothetical website that has an equal amount of low quality or spammy links plus good authoritative links, is it better to disavow the spammy links entirely, or is it possible to just leave them as is but overpower them with more authoritative links?
Practice ko, disavow lagi. At the same time, I overpower. As much as possible, I overpower and then disavow ko lagi. If you look at super big companies, yung mga multinational, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 brands, sangkatutak din ng super bad links nila eh. And sometimes they don't disavow it. Yung mga sobrang lalaking company na, they don't disavow. Actually, they do nothing. Pero ang dami nilang good links though. Sobrang dami ang good links na puro natural that they don't even do promotions of any kind. Sobrang sikat lang talaga ang company. And it works. Hindi na kailangan disavow. But the less the links become, the more I tend to disavow.
Jason?
Yeah, same. Precaution lang din talaga. Parang kung alam mo meron kayong mga sureball na butaw talaga na links, ba't di mo na lang i-disavow? Especially if you're working on clients, dagdag task. Kumbaga abot sa punto na naubusan ka na ng gagawin. So at least meron kang dagdag task na every month. Okay, check tayo baka may bagong spammy links. At least may dagdag report ka na okay, may report ako na dinisabaw natin ng links sa bago.
Medyo throwback yan nung tips ni Jason nung SearchWorks, yung last na, face-to-face conference natin. Medyo lap trip talaga yan, panalo. Ako tawag dito, walang masama sa mag-disavow, like parang maintenance, kagaya ng sinabi ni Jason, kung mukhang galing sa gambling, sa porn, sa Russian websites, sa Chinese websites, medyo more or less, alam mo ng tawag dito, yun na yun eh. Pwede mong i-disavow, pero ako hindi naman ako nagmamadaling gawin yun kasi kung wala namang harm, lalo na kung medyo matibay na rin yung link profile nung kliyente, I think there are better things to do. Although meron mga ibang SEOs, and these are not just regular SEOs, experts na in their own fields. Kasi sa SMX West, nung nag-speak ako, meron ibang co-panelist na very aggressive sila na tipong DA 15 pababa, didisabaw ko, ganun. Ako, para sa akin, that's kind of an overkill. Pag sinabi mong DA 15 pababa, DA 20 pababa, kahit okay yung website, didisabaw mo, parang kagaguhan na yon. Kasi hindi mo naman alam kung kailan sisikat yung vlogger na yan eh. Malay mo, DA 15 siya ngayon, next year DA 30 na siya. Ayaw mo yung link na yon. Tama ka. Tawag dito, parang minsan wag mong gawin for the sake of doing it. Pag may clear na evidence na ganun, doon ko na lang siya a-actionan. So, ayun. You guys have anything more to add, Sir Benj, Jason?
Nag-agree ako sa iyo, Glenn, sa DA 15 and below. What if that person is really an expert sa field na yon? He's really respected. Pero nagkataon may vlog siya na hindi sikat. Pero he's really good in the industry. Balang araw sisikat din yan. And then, nag-agree din ako kay Jason pag wala kang mapakita, nagmamadali ka. The timing of the meeting and the timing of deliverance, hindi lang nag-line up. Hindi pa ako tapos. Anong i-present ko? At least you have something to show right away. Pero as a tool, one tool that I really like to show bad links and just to filter through them para sa akin. But ang negative lang sa kanya, mahal siya, is the detox report ng link research tools. Because it looks at multiple factors and it explains why tingin niya pangit yung link. And then yun explain niya kasi lahat ng signs na to puro galing sa mga similar websites, ganyan. Kaya sasabihin niya, yung backlink nito galing sa mga websites na walang nagli-link sa kanila. Mukhang gawa-gawa lang na page, parang ganun. Or backlink na to, lahat ng backlinks na to galing sa isang IP. Parang ini-explain niya lang and then it does all the research for you para madali lang gumawa ng links ko nung i-disabaw. Ang ayoko lang talaga sa link research tools, the moment you sign up, kung ano yung presyo nila, oras na tinigil mo subscription mo at bumalik ka, mas mataas na yung presyo. Kasi ang policy nila, kung ano yung presyo pag sign up mo, never na yan mag-i-increase. Ang mag-i-increase lang sa mga bagong taong nag-sign up. So yung mga sinaunang nag-sign up ng unang panahon, sila yung pinakamababa, hindi na nag-i-increase ang price nila, nag-i-increase lang sa mga bagong sign up. Kaya it's so hard to sign up for their tool today. Nakiusap nga ako sa kanila nung nag-COVID eh. Sabi ko nawala lahat ng kliyente ko. Nung nag-COVID nawala lahat ng kliyente ko. I-post muna natin bayad sa iyo pero gusto ko same subscription fee, okay lang. Medyo pumayag sila. So okay. Ayun. Okay.
By the way, lalo na sa mga medyo mas nakababatang link builder / SEOs dito, yung DA okay naman yan pero use it as a guide, not as an absolute, ranking factor. Hindi ranking factor ang DA. Maging malinaw tayo doon. Hindi ginagamit yan ng Google. Gawa-gawang metric yan ng Moz na, it tries to approximate the page rank algorithm, pero it is not being used by Google. So kung bumaba yung DA mo, hindi naman bumaba yung rankings mo, wala ka naman problema pag ganon. So, be careful when using third-party tools tapos yung metrics nila. Do not believe for a moment that it is exactly the metric that that Google's using. It's just an approximation of what they think Google is using. So, yun, tingnan mo, to Sir Benj's point na minsan expert talaga yung blogger na yun tapos mababa lang yung yung DA niya. Nangyayari talaga yon. Like, nakakita na ako mga doctors, professors, ganun lang kababa yung DA, pero grabing mag-rank yung website nila. Ibig sabihin, DA and links are not everything. Yung EAT, kasama talaga siya. Kung na manual review yan, binigyan ng high marks na manual reviewer, then it might not need as much of a link equity boost in order to perform sa rankings than other sites would. So, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. If you guys have nothing else to add, Sir Benj, Jason, pwede na tayong mag-wrap up. Thank you so much, Sir Benj, for your time and your presentation as usual. Dami namin natutunan kahit yung mga tito kagaya namin ni Jason. Patuloy pa rin natututo sa inyo after all these years. So, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Salamat din, salamat. Thank you everyone. Ayun, gutom na rin ako. 10:00 na dito ng gabi. Hindi pa ako nag-dinner.
Okay. Jason, thank you
Okay.
so much sa support mo. And then everyone who joined, thank you. We'll try to edit and upload this, pati share yung mga decks. And see you soon, probably next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.